Somewhere a long way from you, a green banana is hanging on a plant, and it has no idea it is already late for an appointment with your kitchen. 3 weeks from now, give or take, you will pick it up off a shelf without a second thought and drop it in your basket and carry it home, and the whole time, you will assume it was simply there, waiting for you the way it always is. But it wasn't waiting. Nothing in that shop was waiting. Every single thing on every single shelf was moving toward you, fast through a chain of hands and trucks and decisions so well timed that it looks to you like stillness. So here is the question I want to chew on with you today. A simple one. The kind a curious kid might ask, standing in the middle of a supermarket, tugging a sleeve. Why does the shop never run out? You can walk in at 8 in the morning or 8 at night. Monday, Saturday, the day before a holiday. And the bread is there. The milk is there. The bananas are there. Thousands of different things, and somehow almost all of them, almost all of the time, are simply present. That should be strange. Think about how much food a single supermarket sells in one day. Now think about how much it can actually hold inside its walls. Those two numbers are nowhere near each other. A busy store can sell more food in a few days than it could ever physically store at once. Which means the shelves you see are not a warehouse. They are more like the surface of a river. The water looks like it is sitting there. It is not. It is being replaced drop by drop, faster than you can scoop it out. And once you really see that river, once you understand the machine that keeps it flowing, you will never walk into a shop the same way again. So let's follow it. Let's follow that one banana all the way from a hillside on the far side of the world to your hand. And along the way, we are going to build up, piece by piece, the hidden system that makes a full shelf the most ordinary miracle you will ever ignore. Let me give you the picture I want you to hold on to for the whole journey, because we are going to keep coming back to it. I want you to picture a beehive. From the outside, a beehive looks like chaos. Thousands of bees, all buzzing, crossing each other, climbing over each other, flying off in every direction with no boss shouting orders. It looks like a mess. But it isn't a mess. It is one of the most coordinated things in all of nature. Every bee is following a few simple rules. This one fetches nectar. That one cools the hive with its wings. That one cleans. That one guards the door. Nobody sees the whole plan. No single bee understands the hive. And yet the hive feeds itself, defends itself, and never forgets to refill the honey. The coordination doesn't come from one big brain at the top. It comes from thousands of small, local actions that fit together. A supermarket and the entire web of farms and factories and trucks behind it is a hive. Hold that thought. We're going to earn it. Let's start at ground zero with something you already know in your bones. Food does not last. That is the whole problem right there in 3 words. A banana goes brown, milk goes off, bread goes hard, lettuce goes slimy in the bottom of the fridge. We have all met that lettuce. Even tins and packets, the long-lasting stuff eventually goes stale or expire. Nothing on those shelves is permanent. Everything is quietly counting down. So a supermarket has a problem that, say, a furniture shop does not. A chair will sit in a showroom for a year and still be a perfectly good chair. A peach will not. The supermarket is trying to sell you things that are, every single hour, slowly going bad, which means it cannot simply pile up a mountain of food and relax. If it brings in too much, the food rots before anyone buys it, and that is money in the bin. If it brings in too little, the shelf goes empty, and that is a customer walking out annoyed. Maybe to a different shop, maybe forever. So the supermarket is walking a tightrope. Too much, it loses money to rot. Too little, it loses you. And it has to walk that tightrope across thousands of different products at once, each one going bad at a different speed, each one selling at a different rate every single day in every single store. Get it right and you never notice. Get it wrong and you remember. Here is the thing though, they mostly get it right, spookily right. So how? Let's go back to our banana, because the banana is going to teach us the first big secret. That banana was picked green, on purpose. Hard green and nowhere near ready to eat. If you picked a banana when it was perfectly ripe and yellow and sweet, it would be a brown mush long before it crossed an ocean. So they don't. They pick it green when it is tough and travels well, and they essentially press pause on it. Bananas are kept cool somewhere around 13 or 14 degrees, which is just cold enough to slow the fruit's inner clock right down without freezing it. A cool banana ripens in slow motion. It travels for a week or two in a chilled ship, sleeping, basically, the whole way. And then, right near the end of the journey, often in special warehouses near the city where you live, somebody wakes it up. They put the green bananas in a sealed room and add a tiny puff of a gas the banana itself naturally makes, a ripening signal called ethylene. Think of it as the banana's own alarm clock played back to it on purpose. Over a few days, in a controlled room, the bananas turn from green to the exact shade of yellow the shop wants on the day they want it. Sit with that for a second because it is genuinely a little bit wild. The ripeness of the banana in your hand was scheduled. Somebody decided days in advance that it should be this yellow on this Tuesday. The banana didn't ripen by accident on the shelf. It was timed like a train. And that is the first secret of the never empty shelf. The supermarket is not fighting against food going bad. It is managing time. It speeds food up and slows food down on purpose so that the food arrives ripe exactly when you arrive hungry, cold to slow things, warmth and gas to speed things up. The whole journey is a careful conversation with the clock. That is one banana. Now zoom out, because here is where it starts to feel like a hive. That banana did not travel alone. It traveled in a box, in a stack of identical boxes, on a wooden pallet the size of a coffee table, wrapped tight. And that pallet was one of hundreds packed into a single steel shipping container, one of those big metal boxes you see on trucks and trains. And that container was a refrigerated one, a reefer, basically a giant fridge on wheels and on water, holding that 13-degree chill steady the entire way. One container can carry on the order of 20 tons of bananas. That is around 100,000 individual bananas in one box. And a single big banana ship carries hundreds of those containers at once. So your one banana is a bee, and it is flying in a swarm of millions, all moving in the same coordinated direction, kept at the same temperature, on the same schedule, toward the same goal, getting ripe at the right moment in the right city. Nobody is tracking your specific banana, but the swarm is tracked with incredible care. And that is the trick of the whole system. It almost never thinks about one item. It thinks about flows. Rivers of stuff moving at a known speed. Okay? The banana, in its swarm, has crossed the ocean and been woken up to the right shade of yellow. Now it has to get from a big warehouse to your specific little shop. And this is the next layer, the part most people never think about at all, even though it might be the cleverest piece of the whole machine. Between the farms and your shop sits a thing called a distribution center. Picture an enormous shed, often bigger than several football fields laid side by side, sitting near a motorway on the edge of a city. It is not a shop. You will never go inside one, but it is the beating heart of the hive. Trucks arrive at one side of this shed loaded with single products in bulk, a whole truck of just bananas, a whole truck of just milk, a whole truck of just tins of beans. And trucks leave the other side carrying a mix of everything, each one packed for one specific supermarket down the road. So the distribution center's whole job is to take in rivers of single things and pour out streams of mixed things. Bananas in, beans in, bread in, and out goes a perfectly arranged truckload that is exactly what your local store needs tonight. Not what some store needs in general. What your store needs tonight based on what your store sold today. And how does it know what your store sold today? This is the bit that quietly changed the world. And it is hiding in plain sight, beeping every single time you buy something. You know the barcode, that little stack of black lines on the side of the packet. Most of us never give it a thought. We hear the beep at the checkout, and we think it is just there to read the price. And it is, but that is the boring half of what it does. The interesting half is this. The very instant that scanner reads the banana's barcode, the shop's computer doesn't just charge you. It also makes a tiny note to itself. One banana, gone. Right now, from this shelf, in this store, multiply that by every beep, at every checkout, in every store, all day long. Every single beep is a message, and all those messages, flooding in by the second, add up to a living breathing, up to the minute picture of what is leaving the shelves and how fast. The shop doesn't have to send someone to walk the aisles, counting tins. The tins count themselves at the moment they are sold through the beep. And here is the strange and beautiful part. That information runs backwards. It runs the opposite way to the food. The bananas flow forward, farm, ship, warehouse, shop you. But the knowledge flows back from your beep to the store's computer, to the distribution center, to the suppliers all the way back, in some cases toward the farm. Your beep is a vote. It says send more of this. And the swarm far away quietly adjusts. That is the hive's nervous system. The bees in a real hive pass messages too. A bee that finds a great patch of flowers comes home and does a little waggling dance that tells the others which direction to fly and how far. No bee is in charge. But information moves through the hive, and the whole colony shifts toward the food. Your checkout beep is the waggle dance of the supermarket. It is one tiny bee coming home, telling the colony, there's nectar over here, send more. And here is a small thing that quietly amazes me. Notice how little the system has to know about you, personally, to do all this. It doesn't need your name. It doesn't need to know that you came in tired, or that you only popped out for milk and somehow left with a basket. It doesn't care. All it needs is the bare fact of the beep. This item, this shelf, gone now. Strip away everything human and personal. Keep only that one cold little fact. Repeat it a few million times. And out of all those tiny anonymous signals, a kind of group intelligence appears that knows, better than any single person ever could, what a whole city is about to eat. That is the eerie genius of a hive. The individual bee is simple. The colony is wise. Nobody had to make it that way on purpose. It just happens the moment you connect enough simple signals together and let them talk. So let's put together what we have so far, because the picture is really starting to form. Food is always going bad, so the shop has to balance on a tightrope. It manages that by controlling time, cooling and ripening things to land them at the right moment. It moves everything not as single items but as great coordinated swarms through giant distribution centers that turn single rivers into mixed streams. And it steers the whole thing using a flood of information running backwards, beep by beep, from your hands to the far-off farm. But there is still a missing piece, and it is the cleverest one of all. Because knowing what just sold is good, it is not good enough. By the time you have sold the last loaf of bread, it is already too late. The shelf is empty, and the next customer is cross. The shop cannot just react. The truly stunning part of this system is that it does something much harder than react. Predicts. Here is what I mean, and it is going to sound almost too simple. The supermarket, with all those years of beep stored up, knows your habits better than you do. It knows that this particular store sells about 40 loaves of this bread on a normal Tuesday. It knows that sales jump on Fridays as people stock up for the weekend. It knows that when the weather forecast says it is going to be hot, sausages and ice cream and cold drinks fly off the shelves, and it has the numbers from every hot day for years to prove it. It knows that the week before a big holiday, certain things triple. It even knows that if it has just put something on special offer, it had better bring in extra, because a lower price pulls more out the door. So it is not waiting for the shelf to empty and then panicking. It is looking at the calendar, the weather, the history, and the offers, and it is quietly saying to itself tomorrow, this store will probably want 42 of these. So let's have 40, 5 ready. The order goes out before you have even decided to go shopping. The bananas are already moving toward you while you are still in bed. And believe it or not, a huge amount of this now happens with no human deciding at all. The system watches the stock fall, checks its forecast, and places the order automatically. A shelf quietly drops below a certain level, and somewhere a computer, without anyone lifting a finger, adds it to tonight's delivery. The store manager doesn't write a shopping list of 10,000 items by hand. They couldn't. No human could. The hive orders its own honey. Let me give you the cleanest way to think about this, because it took people a long time to figure out, and it is genuinely one of the great ideas of the modern world. For most of history, shops worked one way. You guessed how much you might sell. You bought a big pile of it. In advance, you stacked it in the back room, and you sold it down slowly. Buy a lot, store a lot, hope you guessed right. The pile in the back was your safety blanket. Then, over the last few decades, the smartest operations flipped it. Instead of buying a big pile and pushing it out toward the customer, they let the customer pull it through. Nothing moves until you take something. Your purchase is the tug on the thread. You buy a banana, that pulls a banana from the back, which pulls a box from the distribution center, which pulls a pallet from the supplier, which eventually pulls a bunch from a plant on a hillside. The customer is not the end of the chain. The customer is the engine of it. Every time you lift something off a shelf, you reach invisibly all the way back down the line and give it a tug. This idea even has a nickname in the business. They call it just in time. The food is meant to arrive just in time to be sold, not weeks early to sit and rot, and not too late to leave a gap. Just in time means the back room is small and the river is fast. It means a store can offer you thousands of fresh things while holding surprisingly little of any one of them, because it is being refilled constantly, often overnight, every single night, while the lights are off and the doors are locked and you are asleep. And that right there is the twist. The big wait, what? That almost nobody really takes in. We think a full shelf means the shop has a lot of food. It is the opposite. A full shelf, refilled every night, is the sign of a shop that holds barely any food at all and trusts the river to keep flowing. The fullness you see is not a stockpile. It is speed. The shelf is full for the same reason a fountain looks full of water even though the water is rushing through it and gone in seconds. You are not looking at a store of food. You are looking at the surface of a flood, moving so fast and so smoothly that it fools your eyes into seeing something solid and still. The never empty shelf is not full because the supermarket has so much. It is never empty because the supermarket refills it faster than you can empty it. That is a completely different kind of magic. And it is a far more fragile one, as we are about to see. But first, let me tell you about a man and an idea, because this whole system did not fall from the sky. Somebody had to invent the trick of seeing the river. For most of the 20th century, even big, clever companies were a bit blind. They knew roughly what they had sold, but only weeks later, when the paperwork caught up, running a shop was like driving a car. By looking in the rearview mirror, you could see where you had been, never quite where you were. Stores were forever caught out. Too much of the thing nobody wanted, sitting and spoiling. None of the thing everyone suddenly wanted, with no quick way to know until the shelf was bare and the customers had left. The thing that cracked it open was, of all things, the barcode and the laser scanner. This sounds like such a small, dull invention, a pattern of lines and a beam of light, but think about what it actually did. For the first time, a shop could know instantly and exactly what had just been sold at the very second it sold. The store stopped driving by the rear view mirror and got a live view out the windscreen. There is a lovely, almost mythical moment people point to as the start of it all. A single packet of chewing gum in a small shop in the American Midwest in the early 1970s, scanned by one of the very first barcode readers. Just a packet of gum, a few cents. But that little beep was the first drop of a flood that would, over the next 50 years, completely rewire how the planet feeds itself. Because once one item could announce itself the instant it was sold, every item could. And once every item could, the whole river became visible. You could finally watch the flow in real time and steer it. And then a handful of companies did something with that live view that was almost frightening in its ambition. They started knitting the whole chain together so that the beep in the shop didn't just inform the shop, it reached all the way back to the people who made the thing and even let those suppliers watch the shelves themselves and refill them without being asked. They turned thousands of separate businesses, farms, factories, truckers, warehouses, stores into something that behaved like one single organism. Like one hive, no single mind running it, just a torrent of shared information and a set of simple rules, and the whole thing moving together as if it had a plan. It did not have a plan. It had a nervous system. That is the deep secret. Nobody anywhere knows how to feed a city. There is no master in a control room who understands the whole thing and tells every farm what to grow and every truck where to drive. It is genuinely too big for any one mind to hold. The miracle is that it doesn't need one. The coordination is spread out, thin across millions of small players, each following local signals. Sell this, reorder that, send more, slow down. The intelligence isn't in any one place. It is in the connections, exactly like the bees. Which brings us to the part that should make the hair on your arm stand up a little, because a system this clever, this finely balanced, this fast, is also running much, much closer to the edge than you would ever guess. Remember the small back room. Remember, just in time. The reason the shelves can be so full and so fresh is precisely that the shop is not sitting on a mountain of spare food. The river is fast because there is no big lake behind it. And that means if the river ever stops, even for a couple of days, there is shockingly little behind the shelf to fall back on. A typical store, if every delivery truck simply stopped arriving, would not last a week. Many would be stripped close to bare in a matter of days. The thing that makes it so efficient when it works is the very thing that makes it so exposed when it breaks. You may have felt the edge of this yourself, even if you didn't name it. Think of a time when everyone, all at once, for the same reason, went to buy the same thing. A big storm on the way. A sudden scare. A long holiday weekend rush. And suddenly the shelf that is never empty is empty. The bread is gone. The bottled water is gone. That moment, that weird, slightly unsettling moment of a bare shelf, is the system showing you its real nature. It was never holding a great reserve for you. It was always running a fast, lean flow. It was a fountain. And for a moment, more people cupped their hands than the fountain could fill. Here is the mechanism underneath that, because it is worth understanding properly, not just fearing. The whole machine is tuned for normal. It is brilliant at predicting an ordinary Tuesday, because most Tuesdays are ordinary. Its forecasts are built on the comforting fact that people, in large numbers, are creatures of habit. You think you are unpredictable, but 100,000 of you together are astonishingly regular. And that regularity is the ground the whole system stands on. But when something breaks the habit, when fear or a storm or a piece of news makes everyone act the same way at the same moment, the predictions fall apart. The shop ordered for a normal day and got a stampede. And then a second, sneakier thing kicks in and makes it worse. People see a gap on the shelf. They get nervous, so they buy extra just in case, which empties the shelf faster, which makes the next person more nervous, who buys even more. The empty shelf creates the panic that creates the empty shelf. It feeds on itself. A shortage of corn becomes a shortage of bread. And the funny truth is, there was usually plenty of food in the system the whole time. It just couldn't pour through the narrow, fast pipe quickly enough to match a crowd that had all suddenly stopped behaving normally. And yet, here is what I find genuinely moving about all this. It almost always heals. Within days, the swarm adjusts. The trucks run extra routes. The distribution centers push harder. The orders rebalance. The waggle dance updates. The colony shifts. And the river finds its level again. The system is fragile in the short term and astonishingly tough over weeks because it can learn and re-aim faster than almost any shortage can last. It bends frighteningly far sometimes, but it is built to spring back. And keeping it springing back is not magic and it is not robots. It is people. This is the part I really want you to feel because it is so easy to picture this as a cold automatic machine and miss the truth of it. Behind that full shelf is a small army of human beings, most of them working at hours when you are not watching. There is a farmer who watched the sky for that crop. There are pickers whose hands know exactly when the fruit is ready. There are people in chill rooms checking that the temperature held steady across an entire ocean. There is a driver who got up at 3 in the morning to bring your bread across a dark, empty motorway so it would be on the shelf before you brushed your teeth. There are night shift workers who walked your local store's quiet aisles at 2 a.m. under the half lights, unpacking boxes and facing up the tins so that when you wander in at 9, bleary and ordinary, it looks like it was always just so. You almost never see these people. Their entire skill, in a way, is to be invisible, to make the extraordinary look like nothing happened at all. The full shelf is a kind of message from all of them to you. It says, we were here in the night while you slept and we kept the river flowing. You will never meet most of them. They will never meet you. And yet between the farmer's hands and your hands there might be 20, 30, 50 separate human beings, each doing one small careful thing, none of them seeing the whole journey, each one a single bee who never grasped the hive, but without whom the honey would never reach the comb. So let's zoom all the way back out now, and let me try to change just a little how tomorrow looks to you. Tomorrow or the next day you will walk into a shop, and now, that full shelf is not a still thing, it is the calm surface of something moving at incredible speed. Every item on it is a traveler that was weeks ago somewhere far away and has been racing toward you ever since through a relay of hands and trucks and cold rooms, timed and tracked and predicted, pulled forward by the simple fact that one day you would reach out and take it. The banana in your hand was picked green by someone you will never meet, put to sleep in the cold, shipped across an ocean in a swarm of 100,000 of its kind, woken up with a puff of its own gasterepin on schedule, sorted in a shed the size of a small town, carried through the night and laid out for you, all so that it could be exactly this yellow on exactly this day, in exactly the shop you happened to walk into. And it cost you small change, and you didn't think about it for even 1 second. That is not a failure of attention. That is the whole point. The system's greatest triumph is that it lets you not think about it. It does the staggering work of coordination so that you can have the enormous luxury of taking it for granted. And here is the thing I most want to leave you with. When you really look at this giant planet-spanning machine, you find that it isn't really one giant thing at all. It is millions of small, local handoffs. A farmer to a packer to a driver to a warehouse, a night shift worker to a shelf to your hand. Every link in that vast chain is, when you get right down to it, two people in a place near each other, passing something along and trusting the next link to do their bit. The global system is just the local system, repeated an unimaginable number of times, all the way around the world. The big thing is made entirely of small things, working well, close to home. Which is the whole idea behind a project I want to gently tell you about called Hyperlocal. Because the secret of the never empty shelf is really thousands of small trusted hand-offs between real people and real places. Then the most powerful thing any of us can do is help those local connections in our own corner of the world work a little better. The people, the shops, the streets right near you. That is exactly what Hyperlocal is for. So if today made you see the invisible threads running through your ordinary day, come and join us. Subscribe, take a look at Hyperlocal, and let's understand and strengthen the hidden systems right where you live. Because somewhere right now, a green banana is hanging on a plant on the far side of the world. It has no idea you exist, and it is already on its way to your hand.